So I think this is very important for me and for my peers to see, because I talk to, all my friends and everything on Instagram and at work, and we're all in the same boat, still trying to figure out how to, maneuver and make it in this industry,
One of the things that I encourage people to do who want to be in the fashion industry, no matter what age they are, is to go work at a small store, retail store. I know it might sound like I'm not going to work in no damn store, but that's the best education. I'm not saying a store like Big Macy's, but a small store, because you get a chance to learn everything about the business. Right. I still enjoy selling. I still love to go into a store and work at a store and sell. I do. It's something about it. This is personal. It's exciting. But spend time learning the business. Mm-hmm. But also, you can, if you don't want to work in a store, get to know a person, the manager of a store. Cultivate with that person and invite that person for drinks and say, tell me about the retail climate. They can tell you so much. And that's what I mean by that community, right? So if you get a community, if you know someone at Burdock Goodman, spend time with that person. Talk to them about traffic flow. Why is the store set up that way? What does the buyers think of this? When is market? How important is spring to summer to fall to holiday? All those things you can learn. Mm-hmm. And that's what I mean by putting that community together, people that are right at your finger.
What food for thought words do you have? I actually have 3 minutes now.
I would say keep going. I met an editor who was the youngest editor to ever win an Oscar. And when I met him, I was like at a barbecue, and I said, wow, you got an Oscar. This was like, I was only a year into my career. And I said, how does it feel? And he said, oh, don't worry, just keep going. You'll get one too.
Perfect closing moment. Thank you, Ms. Carter.
Happy Thursday, everybody. It is Carla. I am back again with another segment for our Black Fashion Career and Industry Week. And Lord, this conversation, I already know it is going to be amazing. So without further ado, I am going to introduce you to these dynamic women. I want you to stick around because later on this evening, I have a challenge for you. And feel free. I know that there is a slight delay. So later on tonight or throughout the night, if you have questions, feel free to enter them into the chat. And that way I can just grab them and quickly present them to our panel. So without further ado, I want to first introduce you to Rowena Husbands. Now, let me just first say before I even dive into these introductions, please know with the time I have, I want to respect everybody's time. I can only give you a snippet about these young ladies. So this is just a mere just a couple of facts about these individuals, and I invite you to go to the career page, click the website there for each one of them to learn more about them and their work and contact them for jobs too. So Rowena Husbands has for 30 years, she's for 30 years been a sought after photographer in the business. She has a celebrity clientele that boasts a black book of names only a starstruck fan would dream of having. This is literal. Her work has adorned the pages of People, Hollywood Reporter, Variety, Rolling Stone, Essence, Newsday, D&G Music Book, Def Jam Recordings 25 years anniversary book, Vibe, The Source, Ebony, Jet, Billboard, Right On, and the New York Beacon. And that's only a few of them. Her lens is her work. It's her work of art, so to speak. And through it, she captures some of today's most influential figures in the world of entertainment and film. She is head of media for Cinemark TV, I hope I said that correctly, and Dreamhouse. The official photographer for the Broadway play, The Piano Lesson, starring John David Washington, Danielle Brooks, and Samuel Jackson, which I need to see. The MJ, the musical, I need to see that. HBCU's football classic pep rally, Essence Film Festival, Manami, I know I messed that up, please forgive me, Entertainment, New York Women in Film Festival, and so many more. Rowena is the founder and president of Blink of an Eye Photography Online, which is an online photo archive site that allows viewers access to secure some of their favorite celebrity pictures for an affordable price. So if you're looking for some photos of your celebrities, now you know where to go. Rowena, thank you for joining me. Oh my goodness, so glad to have you. You're on mute. You're on mute. Give her a second. It's still on mute. Let me see if I can. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. And thank you for having me. And I'm so honored to be here amongst these other fabulous, astute female photographer women. So I'm very honored and thank you.
Oh, you're just amazing. I'll tell you what, amazing. So let me bring everybody else on. So we have Stephanie Matthews. Stephanie is an award-winning creative director, photographer, public speaker, and mentor with over 16 years of experience. Her work has been published in the U.S. and abroad and includes brand campaigns, celebrity magazine covers, and a Times Square billboard, fashion editorials, private client work, and a gallery of exhibitions. Her list of clients includes renowned figures such as Chef Marcus Samuelson, CNN host Don Lemon, Bishop T.D. Jakes, activist Angela Rye, Natari Naughton, I love her, Cynthia Bailey, Wendy Raquel Robinson, Tamara Maury, I hope I said that correctly, and various professional athletes, dancers, and musicians. In 2021, she brought her success as an image maker and storyteller to the role of executive director of A Tribe for Jazz, where she runs teams of film, fashion, and branding professionals in creating impactful digital assets that elevate international musicians in the marketplace. And you can visit A Tribe for jazz.org. Let me bring Stephanie on the stage. Welcome, Stephanie.
Hey, good evening, ladies. Hi, sweetie. Hi, Rowena.
Hi, darling. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Carla, for having me. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. See, I told y'all this conversation. All right. Already. This is Black women.
Mm-hmm.
I honor y'all. Okay, and next we have Dana Hall. Dana Hall is a professional fashion, portrait, and lifestyle photographer. And y'all might have to mute just a little bit. I'm hearing a little bit of feedback. photographer. She is the vision behind the creative lens. She boasts years of honing her craft to share with her clients an energetic and surreal shoot experience. Her style is a diverse array of imagery from infectious and classic to intense and soulful. Her photography career, began in her teens watching her father work his magic as a photography hobbyist. He was her source of inspiration that catapulted her passion for fashion, an industry where there are no bounds, that's for sure. She has worked nonstop to build up her repertoire and expand her brand to encompass beauty and graphic design in her arsenal. For aspiring models, DeMarie Photography is your go-to if you want to level up your commercial print or runway portfolios. And for those creatively versatile, she is your match for a life-changing shoot. She sees her art as the ability to see the beauty in anything and everything. So I am welcoming Dana. Dana, welcome. Welcome to the stage.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Carla. Hi, Rowena. And hi, Stephanie. Thank you for having me. I just in awe of all of you all. And it's great to be amongst, the fabulousness.
Oh my goodness. And you know what? I just have to let you all know, like somebody already said, hello. So thrilled to have these women with us tonight. And we want to honor each of you Black women photographers. We want to talk tonight about your starting point. We want to talk about operating in the industry. We want to then touch on fashion photography. And then we're going to talk about aspiring photographers and wrap up the conversation. I already told these ladies I might not get to all the conversation, so I'll try to pull out the best, but I already know this is going to be one for the record. So without further ado, let's start in. My first question for this evening is, what made photography, and we're just talking general photography now, what made photography a must for you? Let me just start in the way that I introduced everyone. I'll start with Rowena. What was it about photography that made you say, this is it? This is what I'm supposed to be doing?
Well, actually, I fell into photography. I worked at Canon USA in the camera, the video division back in 1992, and I left Canon because I wanted to photograph my daughter. I had taken my daughter when she was about 2 years old to a photographer, a well-known photographer in the industry by the name of Ronnie Wright, to take her modeling pictures. And when I saw what he was doing, I said, I could do that. So I went back to work and I went over to the camera division and I asked them if I could borrow some equipment so I could take pictures of my daughter. So they let me use, at that point, it was a Canon 10S, if I remember, my memory serves me correctly. And they gave me the camera with a lens and a flash. And I went home. I started posing my daughter, taking pictures of her. She was about 2 years old. I started taking pictures of her. And a friend of mine happened to see some of the photos. Her name is Robin Dunn. She was a well-known choreographer in the industry, and she worked with some of the top celebrities, such as Brooke Fields, all the celebrities when they had to do their music videos, Raven Simone, everyone in the industry. And she happened to see some of my photos, and she said, you have a great eye. I said, I do? I said, oh, really? She said, yes, you have a great eye. And then, long story short, she had some dancers who needed photos. And she asked if I would do their photos. And I said, yeah. And that's how it started. But I fell into photography because I wanted to take pictures of my daughter. That's how it all began.
Okay. And you loved it, obviously.
Oh, yes. It was like, it became a hobby, and then it became a passion. And then it became a business, because Robin introduced me to Mona Scott, young at the time. Mona was a manager coming up in the music industry, and she had artists and they needed photos. And, one thing led to another. And I started taking photos of her clients, and my pictures ended up in all the trade and music magazines at the time that I didn't get credit for. I didn't know at the time. You got to make sure that they have your name. So a lot of my work, my early work, was put in magazines, and I didn't get credit for. Other photographers were getting credit for my work. And then I learned quickly, so I got a rubber stamp, and I started because we used to shoot with print back then. We used to shoot with film, and it ended up being prints. So then I used to stamp the back of the prints before I gave them to the clients with my name and my number on the back of it.
let me slow myself down because I could go somewhere right now with that right now, but I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait. Steph, hold my mute. Stephanie. Woo, I'm gonna come back to that though.
She touched on a lot. I wanted to jump in there too. I know that was good. That was good. Like Rowena, I fell into photography too. So believe it or not, before I became a photographer, I worked at the family business. We had a cake shop here in my hometown, and I was a cake decorator. But I picked up photography. I was shooting film because it was film before it, digital hadn't come out yet, and I did it so I could document my father. He was in stage 4. He was battling stage 4 cancer. And I was working with a number of documentary photographers here in town at that time. And I learned photography that way by telling my father's story, his final year. And before he died, he said, I'd given my time to the family. And he said, go and live your dream. And while that was happening, I was just still developing my eye. And keep in mind, I was already in my 30s. I was 33 when I started shooting. And I mean, I'd always been artistic, but the photography didn't come along until then. And it just, I continued to develop the craft. You put in your 10,000 hours. I was shooting anybody and everybody, shooting everything for free, perfecting studio lighting. And then eventually I started building up work, and I went to the Maine Photographic Institute for a course, studied with Joyce Tennyson, who became a mentor. And the following year, she was like, you don't need, I thought I was going to go to the Brooks Institute out in Santa Barbara, the photography school, but then I decided against it because I already had a degree. And she's like, do not spend the money. You've already got an eye. And she referred me to Matthew Jordan Smith, who is a celebrity portrait photographer who was there in New York at the time. And Matthew was shooting all the Essence covers. So at 33, 34, I became an intern for this photographer, running around town in New York, running his book around, doing all this stuff, picking up stuff, learning, we're shooting, he's shooting all over the place. And when he left New York, I ended up staying and started shooting dancers. So originally, before I went to fashion, I shot dancers from New York to San Francisco. So I was in the fine art space, and then came to beauty and fashion because, well, we could talk about that too, because I was actually anti-fashion for a very long time because of how the industry treated women. It was very tough. So
see, y'all about to, I'm trying to be good. Lord have mercy.
And I just got to say, Carla, Rowena, we got to come back to the thing about the copywriting, because I had to put one of my images on a cover. I mean, not on the cover, excuse me, but as an ad, a paid subscription ad in their magazine, a full page, and did not get paid for it, but I did eventually. So
yeah, see, I'm so glad we're having this conversation. But I'm gonna hit on something really quick. But we got to go back. I gotta come, Lord. See, y'all got me stuttering because y'all just opened up a whole can of worms. This is why we're having it. But one thing I want to pull out of that really quick is the fact that you said you started as an intern at what, 33, 34? Mm-hmm. So whoever is listening to this is not too late.
That's right.
Don't give up. And look at you now. Dana, you talked about your father, but what was it? You were watching your father, but what was it that made you say, I got to do this, for starting photography?
Well, that was photography was something that I did with my dad. And when my dad passed in 93, I didn't want to shoot after that because that was something that we did together. So, it's like, you feel lost, you feel like something, a part of you was gone. So I was like, I didn't think I would ever pick up a camera again. And then, I really got back into photography by way of the beauty industry. Because not only am I a photographer, I've been a licensed nail tech for 33 years now, and also a makeup artist for 23 years. So I started doing a lot of photo shoots for, as a makeup artist. And slowly it started like, I want a camera. I felt it like calling me back in. Slowly but surely, it was every shoot I would do as a makeup artist, I would be more intrigued about the photography side than just the makeup. because I would once you've done your makeup, now you're just sitting around waiting, and and I'm watching, and then I'm like, okay, it's, I'm hearing, and it's like I'm hearing like my dad, like, get a camera. So it was like, then 2010 came around, and I found my way over to, if all the New Yorkers know, B&H. So I bought my first digital camera, and I was like, okay, here we go. So then I started with just like flowers, because my dad used to always shoot flowers. So I walked to Central Park, and I was like, okay, I'm getting a feel for this. And then that's just where it took off from there. So from 2010, that's just where I just went into like full on photography, and then, went into beauty, and then, right after that, fashion. So that's how that started.
Yeah, this is gonna be a good convo, because this is gonna be one of these. Okay, so y'all done push me forward. Rowena, we got to come back to this, because one of my questions was, it was several, but let's go. Some of the challenges, talking about exposure. Talk about that moment, those moments probably, when your work, you didn't get the credit. You quickly learned, but hit on that moment. Clearly that was one of the challenges. What do you say to other people? And be honest, how did that hit you at that moment? And how did you pick yourself up from there and keep going?
Well, at that moment, because it was such a passion, I didn't care. Because like Stephanie said, I did it for free. I literally didn't charge. And my friend said, you have to charge for your time. So I started charging people, excuse me.
That's okay, because that's when you know it's a gift. The things people do for free are those things that you are talented with.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
So I started charging people $25, $40. And so I took it as, when you go to school, college, you go for an education. And that was my education. So quickly learning to get a rubber stamp at the time. So in the beginning, it hurt me, because when I saw my work, and they had credited other photographers because they didn't realize. And so I started calling like the magazines and saying, hey, that's my photo. I have the negative, I have the actual image. I said that, we'll retract. I said, it's too late, because the print already, the magazine had already been posted. So initially I was happy to see my work there. And then it saddened me because I didn't get the credit. But that was only a brief moment in my time. That would never happen. So my advice to anyone today, anybody, always, they have watermarks. Watermark your photography. Watermark your work. That's my advice to anyone. And the watermarks now, with all the digital stuff, you can do it easily on your computers. When you're uploading your photos, you can watermark your work. So, and then if anybody uses your stuff, they have your watermark. And if they use it without your permission, there's lawsuits now. Nowadays it's much more difficult to use someone's photo without paying for it or having them the credit for it. So
I have to ask. Yeah, I don't want to assume, but those people that got credit for your work, were they men?
Yes. And when I started, it was a male dominated industry. I don't know how long you ladies been in the industry. I've been in this industry 30 years. And when I started, it was a male dominated industry. So I wasn't welcomed because I was a woman, and there was not many African-American women photographers at the time. So I grew up in the projects in Harlem with 4 older brothers. So I had a thick skin. So that helped me in the industry, because I wouldn't allow them to push me around. So I stood my ground. And so I was, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. You're not going to push me around. So I demanded respect, and I got it. So that's.
And in talking about that, I got to go. What are some tips that you do? Speaking to Dana, and Dana, we're going to come to you in that too. But in general, people who haven't been in the industry as long as you have, people looking to going to the aspiring, looking to get into it, because we as women do have to. I had a situation, save that for later, but we do have to command that respect. What tips do you suggest for commanding that respect?
Well, the first thing I did is, whenever I went to do a shoot, after I was hired and stuff, I would always introduce myself because I wanted to break the ice. And some, you know, a lot of them they warmed up to it, and then the ones that didn't, I didn't pay it any mind. I didn't care about it because I knew that I was there. I was confident enough to know that, listen, I'm going to break the ice. I'm going to come. I'm going to introduce myself. I do that anywhere I go, even in the beginning, and even when I didn't even know what I was doing in terms of photography, because I was new. I'm self-taught. I had a confidence about it, you know. So if you walk in, if you do a job with confidence and you know what you're doing, you treat people with respect, then I think you'll get the respect. You know, you demand respect, you treat people with respect. I think, you know, you'll get the respect that you deserve.
Could I jump in on that, Carla? So, Rowena, I 100% agree. I just want to add, though, I feel like today with the young emerging photographers that are coming up, there's they forget a little bit about the fact that you have to build relationships, you have to nurture them, and you don't treat work like it's a one-off. You're building relationships with a client. You're getting to know them, you know, and it's also, this is an important thing, I think. It's being able to actually do what you say you can do and deliver on that above and beyond. And so it's almost this servant leadership mindset. You know what I mean? And I think that's also, you know, very helpful. Dana, I'm sure you want to jump in too.
Yeah, I would say too that a lot of people don't realize that you are your brand. Like a lot of people don't understand the word branding. And you can, you know, you have to, you know, set an image for yourself. And, you know, branding is showing up to gigs on time and knowing your craft and training yourself and being able to explain why you're doing this. So why this has to be that way. And I find that a lot of people, and it's not even just photography, it's just generally, you know, that people, they want to say that they're this, but then you go and look and say, well, I was watching you from afar, but you kind of didn't give off that image that, you know, you said that you had, or you did. And I feel that that's the most, you know, to me, very, you know, most important is, you know, when you walk through that door, you know, you have to, and you want to command that presence, you have to be able to back that up. And that's, to me, like where your brand comes in.
Absolutely. I just want to add another thing. I never forget, in the past, I was shooting an event and the client was there and I didn't know. And when I turned in the photos the next day, the client said to me, I was watching you. He said, and I saw how you handled and you worked this room. And from that moment, I knew you never know who's watching you. So you have to be, like, I agree with the women, you have to be professional. You have to show up on time. You know, and relationships is so very important. That's how I got a lot of my work, and I continue to get my work today because of the relationships that I have with you. So
it's also, thank you, Rowena. It's also too, Carla, it's the fact that it's about the interaction between you and the other crew and talent on set. You know what I mean? Because if you have your art director, your creative director, whoever directly hired you, that's fine. But you know, your hair, the makeup people, the stylist, from the lighting people to any kind of like grip folks or whoever may be on a production, all of those relationships matter. They're looking to you. They're looking people, and like you said, Rowena, people are always watching. You never know who's watching to see how you are, and you know, our reputation, our name.
Right.
Is everything. It's what I have. You know what I mean? There's the work, you know, okay, that's fine. But your reputation is key. And that's, yeah.
See, this is, my women. Talk about, and you're talking about that right now, but let's take it a little bit further and talk about sustaining your career. You know, getting the exposure, keeping that momentum going. What are some of the things that you've done? What tips do you offer to others that have helped you get the exposure and sustain? Go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, I would say just never stop learning, because nobody knows everything. And I live by, you should learn something new every day, regardless of what it is. You cannot have any craft and go anywhere and think that you know it all. Because then that's, to me, your downfall. Because there'll be, when you swear you knew everything, and then something doesn't go right, then you're like, well, you said you knew. If you don't know, it's okay. Say you don't know. Say, I'll be right back. Let me find somebody to get that answer for you. Or let me, give me 5 minutes. I'm going to figure it out. But that's my biggest thing to, that sustains me, is to always learn and keep learning my craft. When I tell you I am the biggest product of YouTube University, yes, I am. I watch photography videos. I watch graphic design videos. Wherever I do, have 5 minutes of free time, is something that I can learn. And that's the biggest tip that I could give.
I totally agree with Dana, that YouTube, and never stop learning. At 63 years old, I'm still learning every day. Today, earlier, there was a photographer at the brunch shooting, and I asked her a question that I didn't know, and I learned something today about something when it came to the photography. So like Dana said, you never stop learning, and you have to you are your brand, so never stop learning. And I, along with you, Dana, I'm on YouTube. Even the functionality of my cameras, because they have new cameras every day, every time, new lenses, and when I purchase them, I go straight to YouTube.
Oh wow. Wow.
YouTube is a wealth of information, Carla. Anything you're right.
I want that too, but I'll be honest. I'm hearing someone say, you've been in this industry for all of these years, and you buying a camera and going straight to YouTube.
The functionality,
they don't come with user's manuals anymore, so you gotta learn somewhere.
Right, and the functions of these new cameras, it's a lot. Like I said, I'm self-taught, so I learn everything about the camera on my own. It's like, almost, even to this day, it's almost like it's sink or swim. Figure it out. And by the grace of God, I have all these years, I've figured it out. But yeah, even though we've been in the business and shooting, it's always something to learn, especially if you get new equipment.
Right.
Yes, I'm self-taught. Like, I get if I'm with other photographers and they pull out, for instance, like a light meter, I'm like, how you use that? Like, I can be honest, because my dad taught me to use my eyes. He was like, he didn't have a light meter, he didn't have all that fancy equipment. So I was trained to use my eyes. And that's how I see through, if something is not exposed, not to mention, if you started with film, you didn't know if you got it right until you got your prints developed. So I remember, when my dad remarried, and he was like, I want you to shoot the wedding and just follow the photographer, follow them around. You go where they go. And I was like, okay. And there was one roll that was completely empty. I did not load the camera properly. And I was like, but who knew? I'm just shooting away. And you don't know until they developed it. He was like, one of those rolls was blank. And I said, I was crushed. And, but he was like, no, but the other ones you did were, really good. And I was like, so that's the thing, you just, you're trained differently. I mean, shout out to those that can use a light meter, but I wouldn't know. I don't know what to do with one. I don't own one.
I see. I'm not a photographer. You saying light meter? I'm like, what? They even have that? What is that? But Stephanie,
Carla, you were so funny, girl. No. I was just going to add to what you were saying about like sustainability in the industry. Mm-hmm. For me, the thing that has, I think, been a part of my longevity as an artist is the fact that it's about creating an experience for your client. If you become known for not only just a style you can deliver, but how you work with people, you will always get that word of mouth will get out there. You will always get others because they will want that experience. They will pay for the experience. So for instance, whether I'm shooting a celebrity or I'm shooting something like, e-commerce or whatever, or somebody sending me a collection, their fashion collection, or I'm shooting a local model, they all get the celebrity experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. See what I mean? That's it. And people will pay for that because everyone wants to be seen. They want to be seen and they want to feel taken care of because your image is everything. And they're trusting you to capture that. And so it's about setting the environment. Rowena, you got to set the environment. You're creating this entire space. And I have like a philosophy around, my photography. And it is this idea of creating a safe space where there's no judgment, where, the client can feel like, whether it's a model or, a celebrity or whatever, just there's no judgment. You can be who you are. Right. And that's, yeah.
And also just to add to that, making the client feel very comfortable, whether it's a gala, whatever it is, you make them feel comfortable. That saying is, when you leave somebody, how did you leave? How did they feel when you left them? And it's telling a story. I love to tell stories. So I tell stories with my photos. So for instance, if I shot an event and you weren't there, or I'm gonna give you a perfect example. I shot Alicia Keys' music video one time, and I shot exactly the way the video director filmed it. So had you not seen the video and you saw my photos, I told the same story with my stills that the video director told with film. The exact same story with my photography. So it's about how you make them feel, feeling comfortable and telling a story as well.
How the ham sandwich? Now, look. What time is it? Okay, we're gonna have to have a private conversation about that one. Cause I'm like, how in the whoa, there was a lot that went into that, telling that story, because if you shot the story with stills just like they did, yeah, we have to talk about, Lord, I want to get into that, but I can't because of the time. Oh my goodness. All right, so good. If anybody has questions, go ahead and drop them into the chat because there is a delay. And so I will pick them up momentarily. Lord, I know I need 2 hours for this conversation and can't do it. But let's talk about the difference. Lord, I want to go into that so bad. No. Let's talk about the differences in why you feel Black women are hidden in their photography. Do you believe that there's a difference in, alluding to what you're saying anyway, kind of going back to that there's a difference in the way you as a woman, as a Black woman, depict the photos over how men do? What is it that you believe? Because there are a lot of women photographers, we probably don't know about them. But why do you think is it you as a Black woman photographer don't get that proper due over male counterparts, over white counterparts? Who wants to take a stab at that first?
Well, I will. At this stage, I think in the beginning of my career, it was like that. It was very, very, that was the norm. I think now it's less of the norm because there's so many women and women of color in the industry now. I think, one, intimidation. Two, men are very intimidated. When I started shooting, and I'll never forget Cynthia Horner. She used to be the editor of Right On magazine. She gave me my first opportunity in terms of servicing all my photos at the time. When I shot that way, she would service my photos. And the male photographers who had years of getting their photos serviced in the magazine, when I introduced myself, if I would see them, they would say, "Oh, you're that B who got the 2-page spread in Right On magazine."
Whoa.
So this is what I had to deal with,
Wow.
B, the Caucasian, and these were Black men, Black male photographers, very, very jealous, very intimidated. I wasn't trying to take any food out of anybody's mouth because I feel like there's room for everyone. And then the white male photographers, they thought that they could push me around. you know? And so I started out doing fashion stuff, but then it was just too much. It was too much. The fashion shows, the photographers are fighting. It was just too much. I said, no, this is not for me in terms of, the fashion shows and they're on the riser and everybody's jockeying for space and red carpets. I stopped that a very long time ago. It was just too much. And I couldn't take the fighting amongst the photographers, not even with me, but amongst the photographers. It was just not for me.
Yeah.
But I think it was a lot of intimidation. And look, women were coming to take your spot. That's how, and I think they were, afraid of that.
Yeah, we're going to talk about some of those experiences. But yeah, Stephanie, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that your question, it was about
why do you believe that Black women are hidden in comparison to white counterparts? Do you believe there's a difference in the way you as a woman, as a Black woman, depict the photos over how a man would depict the photos?
I think, yeah, I got you. I'm going to answer that part because I think, because I agree with Rowena, it's changed a lot in regards to, the opportunities. But I will say, depicting clients, I know as a woman, I care about the details, you know what I mean? And I'll get people who will say, I'll get models, for instance, who'll say they shot with XYZ number of, different men, and they really spoke to them, or they just didn't give them any direction, or it was just kind of, it was awkward, or, sometimes things would lean to be inappropriate. And whereas, for women, I think we create a sense of comfortability. We care about details. We care about the hair, the makeup, the style. We care about the clothes. We care about all of those different things. And we care, I know I do, about, my hair and makeup people, the styling people, getting the right image, not only for the client, but so that we all win. See what I mean? Because it's valuing their time and valuing what they're bringing to the table. I was going to say something else, but I'll let Dana jump in. But yeah.
I feel first with men, I don't know why men just want to overly sexualize everything. I think that's one of the biggest things that I have gotten from, say, like female models. They're like, oh my gosh, a female photographer. I feel so comfortable with you because, men, they just, especially depending on what it is, what the content is that they're shooting, I think with, like, for instance, you have for men, it's more like eye candy. For women, we take it as boudoir. We can turn those things into where if you're going to do something of a somewhat maybe like a sexual or romantic or, nature, for women, like I'll turn it into as self-love or feeling good within yourself. That's what like boudoir means to me. So if it's going to be something that has like lingerie and something like that, I'll do the dramatic lighting and things like that. The poses are different where they're not so much of a like risque type of pose. I don't shoot women, with their legs wide open and stuff like that. But if I turn them more to the side, it becomes more classy. And then also the way I speak to them, where, like you said, men kind of just talk, they don't think before, they talk. But then also I feel from like Caucasian women photographers, like when it comes to shooting like, African American women, they don't get it right. They don't get our skin tones right. They don't, they don't depict us the way I feel that they should. So I feel that puts, when finally, especially with, celebrities, when I see that it's like an African American, first of all, female photographer, and I'm like, yes, they got it. Especially to be on, prominent magazines and things, and you see us, and I'll be like, nah, that, Vogue is known for that. They put us on the cover, but they don't depict us right. And that's, a big thing to me.
Okay. Question for you all. According to Zippia.com, 6.4% of photographers are Black or African American. Women earn 70 cents for every $1 earned by men. This is according to Zippia.com. So they're saying for a male may earn $120,325, and a female would earn $83,318. How have you navigated any challenges in receiving market rate compensation for yourself versus what a male counterpart would receive for their work, for their craft?
Well, I'll start with that. First of all, I know my worth. So I don't care what the males are getting. I know, I don't care what they're getting. I know when I'm hired, this is my rate. And a lot of people will try to bring you down. It depends on who it is and what it is. But I give them my rate, and I don't have a problem with saying, well, you know what, I'm not the photographer for you. But I've had no problems in all my years. People, they learn, respect, know your worth, and get what you deserve, you know. And if they don't want to pay that, it's up to you if you want to negotiate and coming down off your rate. That's up to you. But I'm not going to let anybody determine my worth for me. So.
And I second that. That's really exactly it. The rate is the rate.
Yeah.
And I've got the work to back it up, and the reputation and the quality of the work is there. It backs it up. So it is what it is. Now, yeah. What Marina said. That's it. You know your worth. You know your worth. It's just that's if that's what the rate is, that's what it is. And like you said, people will try to nickel and dime, and they'll be that. And they may not be the client for you. And that's fine too. Maybe there has to be a level of education as to why it is what it is, because it's not just I'm doing a service, I'm shooting images or creating stories, storyteller, you know, and there's a lot that goes into the work. There's the creative direction part, there's the actual shooting part, there's the post-production part. People think it's just about that moment on set or wherever that you're getting it, and it's not. It's the breadth of the entire body of what you're doing, from pre-pro to middle of production to the post side of it. So our work has value for, you know, a financial value for a reason.
Someone is asking questions about this, so that's perfect timing. So we'll come to those. Dana, have you faced any challenges like that when it comes to receiving adequate compensation for your work, and how did you address it?
Well, I haven't had like the big, you know, commercial jobs that, you know, the other ladies have had, but just in the portrait realm, yes, because it's like, why do I have to constantly explain? You know, it's like, or I tell people when the shoot is over, now I actually got to go to work. You know, it's like, my job is not done until I've delivered your images to you. That's when my job is done. So people don't, you know, seem to understand how much, you know, shooting it is the easy part. Post-production is harder, you know, especially if, you know, I mean, I do most of my post-production myself. You know, I have one retoucher that I do work with, you know, and that's if something is either a very large job that I'm doing or just something kind of like out of my scoping of retouching, or something I just really don't want to do, you know, but I mostly do all of my retouching myself. So, you know, that's time consuming, you know, so I feel people should pay for that. You know, not to mention when you get requests talk about make me look like Beyonce, and I'm like, how? You know, but I get that, you know, or, you know, can you bring in my stomach? Can you do this? I don't, you know, first of all, can you remove my tattoo? Then you shouldn't have gotten it first off, but, you know, but I get those type of requests. And, you know, when you get into that extensive retouching that takes time, it costs, you know, so that's my biggest issue that I've had with, you know, pricing and people saying, you know, why does it cost this? Or, you know, why does it cost that? It costs us because I got
Go
work
ahead.
to do.
Can I ask Dana a question? So
Go
Dana,
ahead.
what is your process? I'm curious in terms of educating your client, like when you're presenting the packages. I'm just really curious because I think Rowena, you might be able to back me up on this. We're constantly educating, like,
I just kind of like, well, I let people, ask me questions and then I'll try, my hardest to answer. And when I meet with clients, depending on what we're doing, like if it's a portrait session and I know they're going to be getting, products afterwards, then I explain to them, my whole entire process, where we have your beginning consultation, then of course we have your session. Then I do, like, okay, it's like just little basic edits, and then we have an actual Zoom meeting where I show them all of their images, and then that's when they pick, because I do also IPS, which is in-person sales. So
I'm looking at the time.
getting products as well. So, albums and wall art and, folio boxes and things like that. So, I have
I
to
want to take a second right here and take like a little twist. I want to say, because, and then I heard you mention the commercial pieces like Rowena and Stephanie. So Stephanie, thank you for opening that door. I want to say at this moment, I want to ask, what tips do you offer for Dana on what she was just saying, as well as how to get those commercial jobs?
Rowena, you take that one.
Okay. I'm sorry. Could you just repeat that? Because it was a little.
That's okay. So I heard Dana mention about the commercial jobs that you and Stephanie have had. So my question is, what tips do you offer to Dana to scale up the business and to get some of the commercial clientele that each of you might have experienced, so she can migrate up?
Relationships. Relationships. A lot of my work is word of mouth. I'm not represented. Some photographers are represented by agents. I'm not, and I have never been. But it's a lot of relationships. There's women organizations, so many different organizations that you can talk to the women. I do a lot of that. I also do mentorship. So I mentor with Sade Benoit from Channel 7 Eyewitness News. We mentor every year 350 high school students. Wow. And those students, I take some of them under my wing and they intern for me. So it's about relationships, talking to people, meeting people, letting people know what you do. If you're ever on a set, or if you're ever doing an event, because I do portraits as well. But when I'm out at events, I'm always sharing my information, letting the people know what I do. I shoot on sets. I do commercial work. I do magazine covers. So I'm letting people know what I do, because some people will think you only do portraits, if that's what you say. So you have to let people know the different things that you do, because if there's like, I don't like to do weddings, but I get weddings. I hate to do weddings, but people beg me to do weddings. So at first I used to turn them down, but then you know what? I hire wedding photographers to work along with me. And that's how I remedy that. So you just have to let people know that you do more than just portraits. Okay. And just keep networking. It's like any other thing. You have to network.
Absolutely. And to piggyback on that, my advice would be, and this is something that I've done with other emerging photographers, is I'll bring, I love sharing knowledge, and I want to bring other people on set. I'll bring them on as an assistant in some capacity, because I feel like people who need to get to that, who want to get to that level, need to understand what that level looks like. There's the assumption of what you think it is, but then if you're moving from, it's one space, to a commercial space and then further on up or whatever, it's a whole other ball game. And there are different business aspects that come into play, relationship building aspects that come into play. And I think emerging photographers need to be able to see that firsthand to make sure that's really exactly what they want, because a lot of people think they want that, but then you get there and you're like, this isn't what I thought it was. This isn't for me. And so I think that's important too, to be able to reach back like a baton pass and bring someone along, by showing them, letting them just, be your second, you know what I mean? And just assist. And then if you can, help open up doors, because there's so much work. Rowena said there's enough for everybody to eat. Okay. And that's why I don't believe in this whole idea of like competition. I'm like, that's insane. Everybody's got a style. Everybody's got a look of their work. Everybody has a way of dealing with clients, so, but we do need to help open doors. And I refer work on a lot. If I'm not able to do it, it's not for me. Like Rowena said, wedding comes. Hey, I don't shoot weddings. You know what I mean? I can't even get down with it. But guess what? I'm going to put other people in play.
Got it. Okay. So we want to touch really quick. It's 7:50. I don't want to wrap up, but I have to wrap up because Lord knows I could go on with this conversation. Oh my goodness, this is good. I see the comments in the chat and I do have a few questions I'll present, but really quick, we want to touch on the fashion piece. We want to talk about, let's just be candid and tell them what it is. If people have an idea, really, Stephanie, you kind of hit on it. You have an idea of what it may be. Let's talk about what it really is. Different arenas in fashion. What can they expect? Talk about the areas which Rowena, you did a little bit of areas in fashion that you've worked, what you like. Well, let's not even get into what you liked or didn't like, but let's get into the nitty gritty of if somebody wants them to work in that arena, what they can expect. Runway, red carpet, that pit. Might have to
That's me.
Oh, look at Rowena. You have to tell some people what that pit is. The fashion magazines and catalogs, advertising campaigns, and model photography. Really quick, like let's start with Dana, then go to Stephanie, then go to Rowena. Talk about, really quick what they can expect in those arenas. And if there's a certain light, I don't know.
Long hours, number one. Running from show to show. So the last fashion week, I haven't shot really fashion week since actually it's 2019 was my last fashion week. And then of course, we went through the pandemic and everything, but I would park my car up at 179th Street in Hillside in Queens and hop on a train. And that's how I navigated Fashion Week. I would literally go from show to show. I would have my list of the shows, that I was shooting and try to, first of all, you need to get there 2 hours early just to get a spot. Because if you're not hired by the house, you don't have, a designated spot. So now you're fighting for your spot. It's a lot of men. They feel that when it comes to that type of atmosphere and shooting, that women just can't do it. And I've gotten into not physical altercations, but definitely some words have been exchanged. And I tell everybody my elbow game is strong because, you got to really command your presence in the pit, and then there's some like when the, it's like so much with the show improve, when the men really see you holding your own, then it's like, oh, wow, she really can shoot. And to me, I'm looking at like, well, what you thought, I'm here. This is what I do, and I've gotten that. And then and there's a lot of times too, depending on what shows that, you're, like attracted to, that you like this, you'll like some shows more than others. Maybe it's the lighting or the production or the designers itself. Then you tend to see some of the same people. Then you're like, then you're like, hey. Then next thing you know, you're on a first name basis, and then they're like, oh, Dee's here, and I'm like, yeah, hey, how you doing?
So
and that's how it's like
6 minutes. So Stephanie and Rowena, real quick, I want to make sure I get 2 of these questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, in the fashion world, it was about, and it's always about studying trends. It's about attention to detail, the relationship building and continual networking. You got your lighting game has to be strong. whether it's studio and or on location, whether it's natural light or, strobe light on location. Your lighting game has got to be strong. And this idea of excellence from the moment you get the client and you start the conversation to what that story, the storyboards and everything else, all the production pieces, all the way to the very end until delivery, because time is money. The one thing I learned shooting in, there in New York when I lived there was that, the studio spaces, you got the models, you got the whole 9 yards or whatever, if we're banging it out, we got all these hours to do X, Y, Z, 15, 16 looks, or, for a fashion spread, whatever it is, I don't know. But, you have got to be on your game.
Okay.
And it's a level of profession. It's just different. You got to move fast,
Lena?
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna keep that short and sweet. I don't do a lot of fashion, but I just shot this cover, and this for this magazine. I did the whole set. This was all day, literally. It was an all day shoot. It was on location in at a venue, and I utilized everything. And like Stephanie said, your lighting has to be on point. At that particular time, one of my lights didn't trigger, but I captured a mood, and the client was ecstatic, and that became the cover shoot. So sometimes, an error can become something so creative. And so, but I don't do the fashion weeks. I don't do all of that because it's just too much. I prefer to do the portraits, set photography, as well as magazines and what else? Galas. That's what I like to do. So
Okay.
I don't do too much of the fashion.
Okay, y'all forgive me. I'm just trying to make sure I respect everybody's time. So wrapping up really quick, I want to tell everybody I have a challenge for you tonight. If you are viewing from the BFWF virtual stage, I hope you are, you can actually go in, since we're talking about photography, you can go in and take your own selfie. I'm going to drop it in here now. You can go to the lobby and take your own selfie on our virtual stage and download it and share it to everybody. It's going to have the BFWF logo in the top and tag us at BFW Foundation. Real quick, some of the questions that came through. This one, she says, I feel like as a Latino woman, I get asked for discounts more often than my male colleagues. How do you handle this? How do you answer to people asking significant discounts on your work? And she said, how do you kindly decline a potential client's offer when the pay is too low for the work? So that's really the question.
Easy. That's an easy question. I'm sorry, I'm not the photographer for you. No, stand your ground. Stand your ground. Do not let people take advantage of you, because they will.
Okay.
If
Another question.
And she has to, though, because it hurts the market. It could hurt the market. You know what I mean? When people are asking for like those deep discounts like that, and they're never going to value her if she goes with those low rates. And you were talking about rates before, between the disparities between men and women. I know we're getting out of time, but we got a couple minutes.
As long as y'all are good, I'm good. Go ahead.
If women, the way we're socialized is this idea of like, well, I want to be kind. I want to be, nice. I want to help you. Yes, but.
And also when people, there's a lot of word of mouth, right? So also now say she discounts one client. The client always says, well, they charge me this. So now when that next person goes and contacts her, they're going to be expecting that same discount. Now, I mean, like I have my, the friends and family discount, as I call it, but some people never say, well, that's what she did just for me. I can't say what she would charge you. They always leave that part out. And so when they say a price, now that new person is going to be expecting the same thing. And then that puts her in a bad situation.
That's good.
That's a really good point. Rowena, have you ever had to deal with this? So when I bless somebody, and I do call it a blessing, when I decide to bless you, and I'm gonna cut you a little something or whatever, it's in the invoice. Day rate is this.
Yes.
/ friend, family discount, whatever, percent, whatever, so that they know, it's not like, because if it becomes known that, you can't be like negotiating, cutting deals all over. You have to stand firm.
Oh
And
yeah, I do that.
people understand, because like they'll do what Dana said. They'll keep coming back at the lower rate. Well, you said last time it was this. Well, wait a minute.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, I make sure if I give any kind of discount, I make sure that it is in the invoice discounted rate so that they know that that I don't expect this all the time. And then if I do, and if I do a lot of portraits and headshots. So I do give friends and family. I work with a lot of managers in the industry, and they send me their clients. So it depends on who the manager, the manager is, and who, I give their clients a certain rate. So that I have established already. But I also let them know I'm giving you this rate. So if you refer me, they're not going to get that same rate. They'll get the same work, but they're not going to get that same rate. So,
I like it.
That's it.
Oh God. Okay, I have to share this comment with you. The three of you are presenting Real Talk Ladies. I've always worked with male photographers, so this is refreshing. Thank you. One question that came is do you have assistants when you work? Do either of you have assistants when you work?
I do. And I try to employ women of color. So right now, one of my assistants is a male because he's been, very loyal for many years. But I hire a lot of women of color. Yes, I do. Most cases, some of my stuff I have assistants working with me. Yes.
Sign me up.
And you're in Queens. I'm in Queens. So absolutely. We will talk offline. We definitely will.
And Carla, I do as well. Whenever if ever possible, it will be someone who's African American. And if a client is sending me work like a collection that I'm shooting or whatever, and they give me carte blanche, almost always the entire team is African American as well. So I'm always trying to put on Black creatives. Yeah.
Good.
And it's how you treat people, I think too. Now, my makeup mentor, she never treated me as a quote unquote assistant. She brought me, that's how, she brought me to sets with her, and I was able to build my own relationship. Like she worked for BET. And then, so she was like, okay, Dana, you're not just going to sit here on the side. They're going to know who you are. And it got to the point where when she wasn't available, she just sent me. And, and she never treated me as like, you're just on the side cleaning makeup brushes and things like that. And that's when, that's valuing the person of who they are. It's like, it's like you don't treat the person just because of their title. You treat them as a person. So, and it's like, that's how I feel like the relationships you build with your mentors. And, it's funny because I don't really like to even use the word assistant. This is my colleague. This is, because I say they're just as good as me, because actually, if they weren't, you wouldn't have them, So, and that's how I love those type of relationships.
Does anybody else have any questions? I'll wait a second or two. Let me go back through to make sure I didn't miss anything, because Lord knows I got some I can answer. Okay. If you have I know there's a delay. I'll wait a second or two if you drop it in the chat.
Carla, is the young Latina woman, is she in New York?
Lou, are you in New York? I know there's a delay, so it might take a second before I get it. But if you can, even if you inbox me later and let me know, I'm going to put my email in the chat.
Because I would love to refer her to another sister, a Latina sister who's doing, she's banging it out. She's doing crazy work up in Brooklyn. No, Queens, excuse me. Queens.
Yes, she said, yes, I am.
I would love to connect her.
Okay, so Lou,
Angel.
I dropped my email in the chat. You email me, and I'll work with Stephanie, and we'll go from there. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. I want to keep going, but it is 8:04 p.m. So we're going to close out. I want to thank you ladies so very much. Lord knows I want to keep this conversation going, but just in closing, for people, women of color who are pursuing careers in photography, what final words of empowerment, food for thought, do you want to leave them?
Own your craft. never be, always keep learning. And that's the biggest thing. It's like, and your day will come. My grandmother used to always tell me, what's for you, you will get.
I agree. And I just say, treat people how you would want to be treated. Be professional, be on time. And like Dana said, know your craft.
And I would say move in excellence. And for me at 49, it's now Holy Spirit excellence. It's not my excellence. It's do you see what I mean? So it's not about perfection. That's not possible, but excellence and kindness. So it'll all come, just like Dana said. What's for you is for you. God is good.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And what's for you will find you.
There it is. It sure will. It will.
Well, I think that's a wrap right there. So thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is
Thank you too.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You ladies stay right there. And everybody, oh, wait, let me see something. These 2 comments. Hey, Michelle. Oh, Michelle, Stephanie, she said, hey, Stephanie, you know everything about the fashion photography industry. Hey, Shelly. Dale said, Alicia referred to you, Ramona, what you just said, Romina, excuse me, what you just said, drop the mic. All right, with that, we are closing out. You ladies stay right there, and everybody have a good night.